Hi, and welcome back. I'm LaShawn Parker of LP Real Estate Consulting. So, look, in part one of my video series, in which we're discussing real life, real career paths of leaders in corporate real estate, we discussed strategy and leadership roles of professionals. We talked about how they arrived to their current destinations from their entry level roles. Now, in part two, we're going to shift focus. In part two, we're going to talk about workplace and operational roles. So, we're going to look at space management, project management, facility management, and workplace experience. Okay, so we're going to be talking about what keeps buildings running, how spaces are functional, and then also how the workplace is engaging. So, in this video, as we did in the prior, we're going to walk through real life career paths of two professionals in each of these categories. And we're going to discuss again how they arrived or how they went from point A to point B, meaning the entry level role that they once had to their current role as a leader in corporate real estate. So, I want you to stay tuned. And also, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'd love to engage with you and make sure that I am answering your questions. All right, so let's dive in as we talk about operational and management roles within corporate real estate. And again, this is no theory, it's just facts, timelines, and actionable items. So let's dive in. All right, so let's talk about the career journey and the career path of someone who is in the space management sector or category or specialty of corporate real estate. All right, so in this video, we're going to look at two career journeys, two career paths of leaders in space management. Now, before we do, let's talk about what space management actually is. All right, so space management is sometimes referred to as workplace strategy, or it could be referred to as occupancy planning. And what it does is it focuses on how an organization utilizes its space, its physical space, to support the needs of the business. Okay, so that could include analyzing and having input regarding like the layout, space layouts or space planning layouts. It could have someone in this category of space management may have input on headcount allocations or even helping with adjacency planning, making sure that the teams that are need to support one another are in an optimal proximity of one another, and so that there's good collaboration and good productivity as well. Within space management, you're really analyzing like space utilization data. You're also forecasting. So you're forecasting things like the future occupancy needs. If a department says, hey, we plan to grow by 3%, every year over the next 5 years, you want to make sure that you are planning for that well in advance with your other strategy and real estate teams within corporate real estate. Okay, so within space management, you're partnering, your key stakeholders are going to be like HR or IT, or even just the business units that you are catering to. All right. All right. So let's dive into the first professional profile and career journey of a corporate real estate space management professional. That's a mouthful. All right. So this person started out as an event coordinator at a design center. They were in this role for a total of 2.5 years. And from there, they were promoted to an interior designer. And they operated in that capacity for a total of 2.5 years. So you see there, they started out as an event coordinator at a design center, and then they were promoted to an interior designer within that same organization. Now, from there, they did leave that company and they moved to a different company in which they became a project coordinator. Now, this still aligns with the real estate team of this particular company, and they were in the capacity of a project coordinator for a total of 1.5 years before being promoted to a project manager. Now, they operated as a project manager, again, within the real estate team of this organization for less than a year before leaving. They didn't leave the company. They were promoted to a coordinator of space and occupancy strategy. All right. So one of the things that I want to point out before we move on in their career path is if you look in their their first role, their entry level role, it was a coordinator. And then after they moved, I keep wanting to say relocated, they moved to a different company, they became a project coordinator. And once they were in that role, before really advancing into the area specific to space occupancy and strategy, they were also in the capacity of a coordinator. Now, I want to just kind of clarify what I just said. All of their roles in some ways related to space and occupancy strategy, but this is the first role in which they held the title of space and occupancy strategy coordinator, which they were in this role for 1.5 years. And from there, they were promoted to a space and occupancy planner. So again, they went from that coordinator role to a planner role. They stayed in that role again with the same company for 3.5 years before being promoted to a manager of space and occupancy planning and strategy. So I really like how their career path started out as an event coordinator at a design center, and it evolved into a space and occupancy planning and strategy manager. So they've been in that role for a total of 1 year. That's also their current role. And let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. The last 4 roles, the current role plus the 3 prior, were at the same company. So this person is seeing a good level of a good trajectory and a good flow within their career within this organization. All right. So they've been in this role or in this industry for a total of or for over 12 years. And they have a bachelor's of science in interior design. And I like that because they were intentional in going into design. And once they were in design, as you see, as a coordinator and then a designer, they saw how they were able to evolve and expand their career and make it and really optimize their degree by becoming a space and occupancy planning and strategist. So I really like that for them. There were no special certifications or licenses that were listed for them in their profile. And also some of the key takeaways I have is consistent career progression, consistent promotions, and they really shaped their career early on around a specific subject matter. All right, so that is the career journey and the career path of the first space management professional. So let's take a look at the second. All right. So this second career professional, I wanted to include their interns because I thought this was really important. For this particular professional, while they were in college, it appears that they knew what they wanted to do. So their career path into space management, from my view, is intentional or was intentional. So during their summer breaks through college, they interned at design firms. They had design interns, rather, excuse me, for architectural firms. So I thought that was really cool for them to do and really laid a good foundation for them and allowed them to see, hey, is this really what I want to go into? And obviously, I believe it is because it kind of has panned out for them so far. All right. So out of college, their first entry-level role was a design analyst, which sounds like a really cool position. And I believe it is. I've worked with design analysts before. And so they operated in this capacity for a total of 2 years before becoming a workplace strategist and designer. Now, they were in that role for less than 1 year before being promoted to a manager of space and occupancy strategy. Now, just to clarify, between role 2 and role 3, those are 2 different companies. So they were a design analyst for 2 years, switched companies, became a workplace strategist and designer for less than a year, and then they were promoted to a manager of space and occupancy strategy. All right. So far, a very good flow, very intentional. They operated in that capacity for 2.5 years before becoming a manager of a manager in the global space and occupancy strategy of their corporate real estate team. All right. So global space and occupancy strategy manager. is their formal title. All right. So they operated in this capacity for 2 years. That was a promotion. And what I also like, if you notice, they went from, even though this is with the same company, they went from working maybe on a regional level to more on a global scale. So that was definitely a nice big step for them. Obviously, they were positioned at a company that had a global footprint as well. And from there, they advanced after 2 years into a senior manager of global space and occupancy strategy, which they've been in that role for 1.5 years to date. And again, that is their current role. All right, so very intentional, very intentional. Let's look at their career journey as a whole. It looks like they've been on this journey for over 8 years. They have a BS in architecture, which we assume from them interning at different architectural firms. And they also have an MS in community and regional planning and sustainable design. I love that for them. There's no specific certifications or licenses listed on their profile, but my key takeaways for them is that they had a bullseye focus into this field. Like this professional knew what they wanted to do. They went for it and they made it work for them. So kudos to them. Very good career progression and flow, and consistent promotions and consistent and good exposure every step of the way. So I really like this for them. All right, so now let's look at their profiles side by side. What's interesting is each of them, I think one of them had over 8 years experience, the other over 12 years. So I'm going to average that out to 10. So over a 10-year period, you see that these professionals had multiple roles, whether they were within the same company and were promoted, or whether they switched companies. But they stayed in their roles for a minimum of 2 years, it looks like, and they kind of just progressed and progressed and progressed. And they gained the exposure they needed in order to reach the level that they are at now. So these two parties are definitely competitors if they were going for the same role. Obviously, one is in a senior management role at a global company, and the other is more at or maybe a regional or national company. I don't recall the company offhand. I don't have it in front of me, but either way, I think these people could be competitors within the space management arena. Now, again, great career paths, great education, and great intent to go into this field. Now, I have been approached. I remember earlier in my career, I was approached by some of the brokerage firms or a brokerage firm to go into space management. And at the time, I wasn't really interested in that, but I've always worked with space managers, obviously being in corporate real estate myself. And I've always admired what they do. It's something that either you're passionate about or you're not. And most space management professionals that I worked with were very passionate about what they did. They were very intentional about their work, and they seemed to really enjoy it. So that's my experience with working with space managers or others in the space management field. All right. So we have a few more categories to look at in this video series. If you are watching just a shorter episode, which is only focused on space management, this video is a part of a longer video in which I review various paths of leaders in the corporate real estate space. So look at my YouTube channel and look at the longer video. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any comments or questions. I love to answer them and interact with you in any way possible. And also visit my website. I have to throw the plug in, lprealestatecareers.com. I have free books you could download. I also have a course that goes through all the career opportunities that are available in corporate, residential, and commercial real estate. All right, so I'll see you in the next video. Up next, we'll look into project management leadership roles. Right, so let's talk about project management and as it relates to corporate real estate. All right, so let me just kind of define it before we jump into these career journeys of two professionals within corporate real estate project management leadership roles. All right, so a corporate real estate project manager is going to oversee the planning as well as the execution of workplace related projects. So this could be anything from tenant improvements and interior build outs to, let's say, renovations or relocations, or even just capital upgrades. Okay. A project manager would definitely be involved in this process and is definitely needed. So, as a project manager, you're working closely with the internal stakeholders within an organization. So, that could be the facilities team, that could be IT, or the different business units that may be impacted by the upgrades or the renovation or the facility as a whole. But you're also going to work with external partners. So, you have architects and general contractors and vendors. So, these are part of the parties that you're going to work with in the capacity or the role of a project manager. And you're really overseeing and ensuring that the projects are delivered on time. You definitely want them delivered within budget, or below if possible. We don't often see that. And then we also want to make sure that the projects align with the company standards as well. So I would say that this role is a role that involves strategy. It involves budgeting and scheduling and vendor coordination and vendor management. A very tactical role. You're looking at quality control as well as construction oversight. So quite a lot that goes into this capacity of a project manager. But again, let's jump into a couple of the career paths of two professionals that currently operate in a property management role within corporate real estate. All right. So the first professional that we're going to look at, I really selected this professional intentionally, and I'm going to explain to you towards the end of why I chose them. But they started out as a facility manager. They were in this capacity for a total of 2 years. From there, interestingly, they moved on to become a manager of corporate real estate. Now, this was at the same organization. So this was looked at as a promotion or maybe a horizontal switch within their role, or within the organization, rather. And so, again, facility manager for 2 years and then promoted or advanced over to a manager of corporate real estate. Now, I'm going to assume that they did a good job in this role because they were there for a total of 6.5 years before switching companies and moving on to become a director of facilities and real estate. So what I love about this third role that they're in is that they started out in facility management. They went over to a manager of corporate real estate, and then at a new organization, they were able to combine the experiences from those two prior roles into this new role of director of facilities and real estate. Now, they were in that role for a total of 2 years before being promoted to a senior workplace relationship manager. All right. So again, they were promoted from a director of facilities and real estate into a senior workplace relationship manager. Now, again, I don't know the details behind the promotion or the change in roles, but this is their career path and how things panned out for them. So after being in that role for less than a year, they actually left the company and moved to another company in which they became a regional real estate manager. All right. So really regional real estate manager, similar to a portfolio manager. They operated in this capacity or in this role for a total of 2 years. And from there, they became a senior manager of workplace. Okay. They were in that role, which was with the same company that they were in prior as a regional real estate manager. They were, again, now in the role of a senior manager of workplace for a year. From there, they left that company and moved on to another company in which they became a program manager of corporate real estate. So program managers are typically going to really focus on a lot of data and analyzing data and assisting with the overall strategy for a corporate real estate team. All right. So they were in that capacity for less than a year before being promoted within the same organization to a senior real estate project manager. All right. So kind of interesting here because the goal is or for this particular category is to look at leaders within project management. And I found it interesting that they started out as a facility manager. They went on to do a series of roles within managing real estate portfolios as well as workplace experience, and then they landed in the role of a senior real estate project manager. um, they've been in this role for the total of 5.5 years, and this is their current role. And it seems that something that I found in my working with other project managers is some people go into project management intentionally, and some of them kind of evolved into it. And I feel like this person somewhat evolved and found their way into being a project manager. All right. They've been in this in real estate for over 20 years, and they have a bachelor's of science in business management. They also have a certification known as an MCR. If you've seen other videos that I have shared, an NCR is a certification known as a Master of Corporate Real Estate, and it's issued by Coordinate Global. Wonderful certificate to have if you plan to go into corporate real estate, in my opinion. All right. So a few key takeaways is from this professional's career path is that they did exhibit steady growth, even though it maybe wasn't forming a specific path that led to project management. In some ways it did, in some ways it didn't, but there was steady growth. And what more so than growth, I would say exposure. So consistent promotions, consistent exposure, and definitely a standout certification, the MCR. All right. So very interesting career path, 20 years, 8 different roles, and looks like they're standing strong in their current role as well. All right. So now let's take a look at the second professional in project management. All right. So this person started out as a site acquisition specialist. So they were more so on the sales side. So site acquisition specialists, they were in this role and operated in this role for a total of 3 years. They then were promoted within the same organization to a manager of site acquisitions and zoning. And they worked in that capacity for a total of 2 years before stepping out on their own. Now, at this point in their career, after 5 years, they decided, you know what, I want to be a real estate broker or agent, and I want to obviously a broker, and they wanted to operate in their own within their own company. So from there, they became a director of real estate services. Likely they were the broker of the company. They worked with that title for a total of 4 years. And from there, they became a director of real estate as opposed to real estate services. Operated in this role as a broker director before going back into corporate, in which they became a market manager. Now, they were a market manager for a total of 3.5 years. And I'm going to be quite honest with you. I have an assumption of what a market manager is, but I don't I've never really seen that title before. So I found that to be quite interesting. But they were a market manager for a total of 3.5 years. Again, that was their first role going back into a corporate setting. And from there, after 3.5 years, they became a project manager. Now, they worked as a project manager for a total of 2 years before being promoted to a senior project/construction manager. Now, that is their current role, and they have been in that role for a total of 1 year as of today. Now, what is interesting is this person started out in more on the transactional side of real estate within an organization. They then evolved and stepped out on their own and became a broker or a real estate salesperson, and then they returned back into the corporate arena, and it looks like they found their footing in the project management area. All right, so let's look at their career journey. It looks like they've been in this in corporate real estate, or their journey has lasted for just over 15 years. Now, what's interesting is they do not have a higher degree of education. They do have a high school diploma, and they also have a salesperson's license. Now, I'm assuming they were a broker or a sales agent, but they have a sales license, but they do not have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, but they were able to build up a career in real estate for a 15-year plus period. And what I like about them, and some of the key takeaways here, is their exposure within the different real estate subject matters. Again, going from transactional activities, being in a corporate environment, and then stepping out on their own in the entrepreneurial space, and then returning to corporate as well. So, but what I like is that they were focused on real estate as a profession. And so they landed in project management. And again, as I was saying, some people go into project management intentionally, and some people find their way into it. All right. So these two career professionals have had long careers, over 10 years. And as you can see, they've had a lot of different roles, entry-level roles, entrepreneurial roles, but it all led up to them realizing and walking in their current roles as senior real estate project managers or project/construction managers. So again, as I said previously, in this capacity, you're dealing with a lot of different stakeholders. You're dealing with internal stakeholders as well as external stakeholders as well. But it is a big responsibility, a lot of oversight, and it's a great role, I believe, if you're a person that is very well organized. Some of the very successful project managers that I've personally worked with were very structured, very organized. They were leaders. They knew how to take charge. They knew how to handle different types of personalities and different types of people. And so I would say that those are some of the good skills of good project managers that I've worked with in my tenure. So project management, these are two good career professionals and good career paths to look at and consider for yourself, and how you can set yourself up, whether you know for sure you want to go into project management, or if you're considering a change in your career and maybe looking at project management as an option. All right, so that's project management. Let's now take a look at the next career category. I'll see you back in a moment. Next up, we'll dive into facility management career paths. All right, so let's talk about the role of a facility manager. So again, we're looking at career paths and career journeys of real estate, corporate real estate professionals. This is our corporate real estate series. We're looking at operational and management roles and capacities within the corporate real estate sector. So this series, or this episode or section of the video, is about facility management. So what is facility management? Very quickly. So when I think about a facility manager, I feel that a facility manager is responsible for the day-to-day operations of a company's space, their physical assets. They're looking and ensuring that the building is safe, that is functional, that is compliant with whether it's state laws or zoning laws or the lease. They're also making sure that the facility aligns with the organization's needs. So that in a nutshell is what I think about when I think about a facility manager. So basically, they play a key role in space efficiency, emergency preparedness, sustainability initiatives as well, and just supporting the employees, making sure that everyone's comfortable, making sure everyone's productive. So yes, and they also deal a lot with vendors, a lot of vendor management, whether it's janitorial services, landscape services, food services in some cases. So facility management in a corporate real estate setting. All right, so let's take a dive into these career paths of our first facility management career professional. All right, so this particular professional, and you're going to see here, there's a few within the facility management professionals that I chose. They kind of had some non-traditional paths, and I chose them specifically just to show that sometimes where you start may not be where you end up, not necessarily that they're at the end of their career, but just to kind of show some different paths than just a traditional straight path. So this particular professional started out as a process engineer, and they operated in this capacity for a total of 4 years. And then they progressed into a production manager, in which they also operated in this capacity for 4 years. So the first 8 years of their life was more so centered around engineering activities. Now, their third career role was as a director of facility management and planning. Now, this person's profile said they started out in the director level. I'm not sure if they started out as a manager, senior manager, or if it really was a director, but they were in this role and at this company for a total of 5 years, and their title was a director of facility management and planning. Kind of a different switch over or change from engineering, but it's what worked for this person. And they obviously were in that capacity for 5 years, which is a good amount of time. From there, they switched companies and became a director of facility management, in which they operated in that role for a total of 4 years before then switching companies again and becoming a senior project manager. So, very interesting. So, they went from engineering to facility management to project management. So, nice little career flow in terms of real estate so far. All right. And from there, they began working at a brokerage firm. So, in my career course, we talk about the different types of brokerage firms, commercial brokerage firms. There's some that are boutique level, some that are global level. This particular company, although I won't list the company, they were more of a large global brokerage firm. And this particular professional was assigned as a facility manager at at one of their customers or clients' facilities. Okay. And they operated in that role as a facility manager for 4 years before advancing to a senior facility manager. Now, this is their current role, and they are still with that brokerage firm. And from what I gather, they're still working with the same organization that they were working with. This is something that is common in commercial real estate, even though I know we're talking about corporate real estate, but this is common. Sometimes a company, instead of hiring an in-house, in this case, facility manager, they feel that it's better to contract this role with a third party, which would be a brokerage firm. So this is why I included that here, kind of to make that point, but also to show this person's career path. They started out in engineering for quite a bit of time, for 8 years, before deciding to dive into real estate. And they entered real estate on a facility management level, went over to project management, and then they are back into that facility management role. All right. So this person has been in their career has expanded over a 30-year period. They have a BS in physics, and they don't have any certifications or licenses that are listed in their profile. Now, what I take away from their career is that they've had a long career with consistency and with steady progression, especially once they found their rhythm, right? And I believe this person's rhythm was in the real estate field or in facility management. All right. So good career path, long journey. Definitely doesn't take 30 years to get to that level. But what I gather is they've been in their roles for a fair amount of time. On an average, I would say 4 years, and in their current role for 7 years. So it seems like this person has found their rhythm. They found what they like to do. So definitely a good career path. All right, so the second professional we're going to look at started out. Now, this is a non-traditional path, and I chose this specifically just to show, again, how you can change your mind, how you can advance, or maybe where you're at. If you're in a non-real estate role, how you can kind of still use what you have to make yourself successful in corporate real estate. All right, so this person started out as a store operations manager. Now, this actually is somewhat of a real estate related role. They were a store manager, and it wasn't just one location. They oversaw, I believe it was 3 separate stores, but obviously under the same brand. And they operated in this role for a total of 7 years. From there, they found a new job at a different company as a facilities call center supervisor. So very different than store operations, which I would say is more on the retail side, whereas a call center is obviously a call center. So this is non-retail related, but it is related to real estate, right? They are in a facilities management role within a call center, and they were a supervisor of the call center for a total of 3 years. from there, I thought this was very interesting that they became an invoice auditor. Now, I'm going to be very honest and tell you, I'm not sure what an invoice auditor does as it relates to their career path, but they were in this role for a total of 2 years before becoming a facilities service manager. Now, what's interesting is they were as facility service manager for over 10 years. Now, if you look and you looked at whether this video or whether you're looking at the longer short version of this video or other videos that I've made about professionals' career paths, it's very rare to find someone who's been in a role for over 10 years. I would say that the average has been about, I would say maybe 3 to 4, if not 2, but maybe just to give some grace, I would say 3 to 4 has been an average. So 10 and a half years in one role as a facility service manager before becoming a regional facilities manager, which they've been in that role for a total of 8 years. All right. So really good career flow in a sense that it appears that they found their rhythm as well. They found something that they like to do. And I believe this person's earlier role as a store operations manager really laid a good foundation for them to become successful in being a facilities manager. By the time you're doing at a regional level of facility management, you really are structured, you're organized, you are demonstrating yourself as a leader in your field. So kudos to that person. Their career journey has expanded over a 25-year period. They also have a bachelor's of science. Their specific major was not listed, and they were not showing any special certifications or licenses. My key takeaways was that there was a gradual upward career mixing up my word, there was a gradual upward career trajectory for this individual over this 25 plus years, and they're very tenured in facilities, as I mentioned. All right. So now we've looked at 2 different professionals, 2 different career paths in the facility management space. We see one person really held on to their roles for a good amount of time. Really, what I gather from that is they really developed an awareness of those facilities and probably was the go-to person and is the go-to person for many, many challenges or periods and trends that has occurred within those organizations. All right. And the other person, the first career path that we looked at, again, started out in engineering, in the engineering space, and then evolved over into a facility management position. One of the points I like to make here is in facility management, there are layers. However, I would say that once you're at a regional level of a facility manager, I'm not sure how much further up you are able to go from there. So regional facility manager would probably be one of the highest levels you go to. And if I'm wrong, someone please make a comment in the comments. But typically a regional facility manager is usually going to be like the height of a facility manager. And I would also say that I'm trying to think about facility managers that I've worked with at different organizations. I would say that they have remained at those organizations for a minimum of 5 years and have really become familiar with the facilities and really understand how the company operates and who to engage with for certain matters. And so, yeah, very great. Nice career to have, could be a very long career. And it's something that I believe, I don't think I've mentioned this in other videos, but it's something that would not be fully overtaken by technology such as AI. All right. So facility management. So within this corporate real estate series of operations and management roles, we have one more career category that we're going to go over. And if you're watching the individual episode of this, feel free to watch the longer video in which we talk about all of the career paths within the operations and management category of corporate real estate. I'll see you in the next video. Now let's take a look into career paths of those in workplace experience. All right, so let's take a look at the career path and career journey of 2 corporate real estate professionals with the title of workplace experience. whether it's head of workplace workplace experience managers, there's different roles and titles rather that could define a leadership role in workplace experience. So before we get started with their specific career journeys, let's take a look at what workplace experience is as a whole and what that professional works on or does. All right. So a workplace professional focuses on creating an environment that would enhance like employee engagement or productivity or even just well-being. So their role blends like the elements of the space and usability of the space, whether it's a hybrid work strategy, creating that hybrid work strategy and what that looks like. They're focused on culture building as well as amenity planning. So they are supporting a positive and inclusive work environment. Now, in workplace experience, you're going to see typically that they partner with like HR and facilities and IT, and they're implementing programs and services that will improve how employees interact rather with their physical spaces as well as their virtual spaces in our time, as and also like they're including like hospitality style services. They may be a part of the onboarding experience. They may look over, like I mentioned, amenities like the wellness room. They may also be a part of like the food and beverage programs as well. So a lot of community engagement, making sure again that the environment is set up for engagement and productivity for their staff. All right. So let's again take a look at the career paths of two workplace experience professionals. All right, so this particular workplace experience professional started out as a general manager. Now, I wanted to include this person, as I've said, either if you're watching the longer video, I've said this in other sections, or if you're watching this episode only, go check out the longer video. But I've made a point that I tried to include not just people who had a straight path into corporate real estate or a real estate role, but also people that had non-traditional paths into their roles in leadership in corporate real estate. And that's something that is kind of common within real estate as a whole. There are some people that intentionally go into it, and there's some people that find their way kind of by accident and fall in love with it. And there's a lot of people that want to be a part of real estate, but are not sure how or what they can do. So I'm going to just do a quick plug and say, if you go to my website, lprealestatecareers.com, there is a course that I created that outlines all the career paths in residential, commercial, and corporate real estate. And I talk about those paths and what it takes to get there and what you're doing in those roles. Correction, I don't talk about the paths. I talk about the roles that are available, the job roles, the job titles, what you're doing, how much you can make, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so let me stay focused. All right, so workplace experience. This again is a person that worked in a capacity as a general manager. It was a non-real estate related role or non-corporate real estate related role, and they were in that role for 7 years before becoming a service manager. Now, after 2 years of being a service manager, they found themselves working for the past 4 years as a senior workplace solutions manager. Now, I am of the belief that their exposure and their experience as a general manager and even as a service manager really set them up to be effective as a workplace solutions manager. All right. So non-traditional path into this category, but also someone who was able to use past and prior experience to really make a difference, hopefully make a difference in their role now. Of course, I don't know this person personally. I don't know specifically how well they're doing, but they have been in the role for a total of 4 years. So I will assume they're doing something right. Now, this person's career journey has expanded over a 15-year period. They have an associate's degree. And they also have a certification known as a FMP, which is a facilities management professional. So it looks like they took the right steps to set themselves up and to position themselves as a senior workplace solutions manager. Now, again, my key takeaways from this particular professional is that they evolved into real estate using their prior experience, and they obtained what I would look at as a standout certification, which is their FMP. All right. So this is the first career journey and path of a workplace experience professional. What also stands out to me here is that they have over 15 years experience, but they've only had 3 roles. If you again look at some of the longer video or some of the other episodes, you'll see that most people had on an average, I think I think an average would be 6 different jobs before leading up to their current role, their current leadership role. So very interesting. All right. So this particular person here, the second career path that we're going to look at for a workplace experience professional, this person started out as an executive assistant. Now, I am going to say they were in this role for 3.5 years, but they were the executive assistant of a head of real estate. All right. So executive assistant, head of real estate, obviously saw a lot of things, had a lot of exposure to the person they were servicing and assisting rather in their role. And after 3.5 years, they became a senior manager of facilities as well as the chief of staff within their department. Now, I just don't, for my notes, I don't have if they were if this was within the same company in which they were an executive assistant or if it was at a different company. However, they did become a senior manager of facilities and chief of staff, in which they operated for 2 years before being promoted within the same organization as a director of facility and employee experience. All right, so this person operated in this role of director of facility and employee experience for 3 years before being promoted again within the same organization as a director of workplace experience and facilities. So I love how they evolved from being an executive assistant in the corporate real estate space into now becoming a director of workplace experience and facilities. They operated in that capacity for 3 years. They then left their company that they were working for and became a director of workplace experience at another company for a total of 2 years before being promoted within that same company as the head of global workplace experience and facilities. They've been in that role for 1.5 years and it is their current role. So definitely love the progression in their career, how it flowed. It looked like they had an idea of what they wanted to do and they made it work for them. So their career journey has expanded over 15 years. They do have a bachelor's in business administration. And in terms of certifications, they have a certificate of Society for Human Resources, an SHRM. Now, again, my key takeaways is that they utilize prior experience to advance into an evolving role. And they also had a standout certification as well. I think that helped them more so. Well, I would say it has helped them, that certification has helped them throughout their career. If you think about it, from their second role up into where they are today as the head of global workplace and experience. So definitely kudos to this person for where they are today. Now let's look at their career path side by side. We see again, we talked about one person really held on to their roles for a long period of time and worked in those roles for a long period of time. I feel like the career path one was very non-traditional, but it worked. It got them to a place where they are today, and it appears that they are thriving there. And in addition to that, we have the second person who really just took steps and gradually worked their way up to a global portfolio. So definitely great experiences side by side. I like to say, and I could be completely wrong on this, but workplace experience is a more recent defined category within corporate real estate. It has been around for a very, very long time, but it's more so non-traditional when you look at maybe a decade ago. I don't believe we were calling workplace experience that at the time, although there was someone operating in the capacities of workplace experience. So definitely a good position and subject matter to be a part of in workplace experience, especially if you are enthusiastic about just creating productive work environments. All right. So, workplace experience, side by side paths. Again, check out the longer video. I believe this is the last career category that I go over as it relates to corporate real estate, but I'm also going to do a series on commercial real estate roles as well as residential real estate roles. So thanks for watching, and I will talk with you soon. So there you have it, part 2 of our corporate real estate career series, in which we walk through real life career paths of professionals. Now, if you found this video helpful to give you a view and a perspective of how to build and grow your career in corporate real estate, mainly beyond, but not exclusive of, but mainly beyond sales, leasing, and property management, then guess what? I'm doing my job. I'm fulfilling my goal and my vision for LP Real Estate Consulting. But look, I encourage you. Before I do that, let me recap. In video 1, we talked about leadership and strategic roles in corporate real estate. And in video 2 that you just watched, we talked about operational and workplace roles. Okay, now this is just the beginning, because I'm also going to expand beyond corporate real estate, and we're going to focus on commercial real estate as well as residential real estate. So stay tuned for that. If you like and subscribe to this channel and to this video, you definitely will be alerted when those new videos are released. So please subscribe or share this information with someone who you know may be interested in real estate as a career. Now, I also want to let you know about other resources, free resources that I've created on my website at lprealestatecareers.com. On my website, I have free ebooks that you can download. And there's at least 5 that you could download for free that give you great information about building a career in real estate. Now, again, my focus is on residential, commercial, and corporate real estate careers. Now, I also have a very extensive career course that is available on my website. And in that course, I really take a deep dive into the careers that are available in all of these 3 sectors of real estate. And I don't just talk about the titles, but I also talk about what you'll really do in those roles, how much money you can make in those roles, and what you can really expect. So hopefully it'll help you to be more intentional in building and establishing your real estate career. So look, thank you for watching. Again, subscribe to this channel and stay tuned for more upcoming information about careers in real estate. Talk with you soon.